My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. Today, zooming in from beautiful Edmonton, Alberta. We've got a gentleman who's been in and around real estate for a long time as an investor, but also primarily in the development side of things. James Matt, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks a lot, Dave. Great to be here.
Now, when you filled out the information, I asked you, what are some topic ideas? One of them that popped out for me was, you said, how not to invest in real estate. So he said, I just completed writing out all the mistakes I've made in real estate and steps to avoid them. So that intrigued me, my friend. Tell me a little bit about that and why you decided to sit down and kind of, pour salt on the wound and revisit things and things that didn't go quite as well as you hoped they would.
Yeah, for sure, Dave. That's a great question, and I guess a little bit of a loaded one as well. As you mentioned, I've been in home building and real estate professionally for most of my adult life, going on to 21 years this year. So I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago where I was like, hey, I kind of understand how this works from a development perspective. Maybe I should start throwing some cash into the ring here and see what I can do. So I've made probably every single mistake you could make in real estate. If we wanted to start talking about opportunity cost, investing in something you don't understand from an investment perspective, that's a big thing as well. But like starting from my first kind of standalone investment property that I bought. I remember it was a 4-unit building. It was all under one title. So it made it a little bit easier for me to qualify. But, I didn't even run a pro forma on the thing before I picked it up.
Where was that? You're in Edmonton. Where was the property that you bought?
That was in Edmonton, and if anybody knows the area, it was just off of what they call the Avenue of Champions, otherwise known as 118 Ave, which is a little bit of a rougher area. So when I got into the property, the market was really pumping. Vacancy rates were kind of around zero, and it was cash flowing like crazy. Flash forward a little over a year later, and several bad tenants later, kind of got a reality check on that one. So
wow. So how did that one work out long term, or did you decide to dump it after you had some nightmare tenants from hell?
yeah, I ended up dumping that one and lost a lot of money. Going back to the opportunity cost, right around that same time was when kind of cannabis stocks were hitting the market and things like this. And I actually took some of my capital and deployed it into cannabis stocks, and the other part of my capital I deployed into that fourplex. And this is where we get to the opportunity cost. I really knew what I was investing in with the cannabis stocks. Had I taken my capital that I invested in the fourplex and just went with the cannabis stocks, my return would have been $26 million. So we probably wouldn't have been sitting here today. I guess lessons are invaluable as well. And, on that property again, I basically learned almost every lesson you could learn, not assessing the deal properly, maybe overextending myself a little bit from a capital perspective, not finding and renting to the right tenants, not doing my due diligence properly on that. Letting emotions come into play. So, giving tenants chances when I shouldn't have. One tenant, instead of evicting her like I should have, I actually moved her down to one of my basement suites to give her a little bit more of an affordable option, which, just didn't turn out well for me in the end. I basically ended up kind of losing twice with that one.
She probably damaged the first property and the second one. It didn't pay rent in the first one and ended up not paying rent in the second one too.
Totally. And, being raised by a single mother, growing up, she was a single mom as well, so
Yeah.
I had a little bit of a soft spot, I think, there for her and her kids, and didn't really feel very good about putting them in a bad spot. But at the end of the day, what it really did was it put both of us in a bad spot, and I still
Mm.
had to evict her. Ended up having to go to the landlord tenant board to have her removed. And yeah, the property was totally destroyed. So at the end of the day, she ended up not having a place to live through me anyway. And I ended up losing really big on that one as well. So
Wow.
yeah.
It is so tough, isn't it, James? Because we all, most of us have hearts, right? And people get into crummy situations and they're good at spinning a sob story. And sometimes it's legit, right? And then you
Yeah.
have people like that that just really screw things up for everybody else. But yeah, you
Yeah,
don't.
totally.
I think
Well,
I
at the
think we've
end of
all been through that kind of experience. So it's not just you, my friend.
Yeah, totally. And I've been a homeowner and a tenant, so I get both sides of it. But at the end of the day, you can't help somebody that's not willing to help themselves.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like being in a relationship with a romantic partner and thinking that you can change them. Like first of all, it's not your right to try to change somebody else. Second of all, they're only going to change if they want to. So I think that's really important to recognize when you're considering giving a tenant another shot, or maybe renting to a tenant that may not appear suitable to begin with. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So at one point you had multiple properties in your portfolio, and then it sounds like you've liquidated all of them, and you're kind of deciding whether you want to regroup and get back in. What are your thoughts around that, James?
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess being a little bit jaded from some of my experiences, yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. I'm not a huge landowner for sure, but at one point I had 7 doors. That was at the peak, and I kind of figured out, hey, I really suck at this right now. So maybe I'll pull some of my capital out while I still have it. Look at other avenues to invest in for now while I kind of regroup and just kind of try to come up with a strategy that will work for me. So I think that's really important as well, is to recognize that as an investor, like what you're really getting paid for is your risk. So you should really do your best to kind of understand all of these risks, all of the obligations that are going to be presented to you. Mind you, I chose to manage my properties myself as well. So if you have a little bit more capital and your properties are cash flowing and you're not experienced, it might be a good idea to go with a property manager to start until you learn the ropes a bit. So.
Yeah, or start with onesie twosie properties and self manage, and instead of biting off seven all at once. That's for sure.
Yeah, one thing I did do right was I have to say the one commercial property I had, that was a dream. Like rent was always paid on time. The guys were super easy to deal with. So that was kind of my slam dunk out of all the properties from a management perspective. Still didn't do super well because we can get to another lesson that I learned is don't buy the top of a market and sell the bottom of a market.
I shake my head because I've been there. I've done that too, man. That's,
Yeah.
but hey, well, hey, there's a nugget in there then, James. So tell us about the property that was a pleasure for you. What kind of, it wasn't residential, it was commercial. So tell us what was it?
Yeah, for sure. So at the time, I actually owned a contracting company, so I was in a little bit of a unique position compared to where some of the listeners may be. So I do kind of want to just interject that as a little bit of a caveat because, as I mentioned, I did buy this property like very overpriced in my opinion, looking back at it now. But basically, what it was a commercial condo bay. So it had a really
Mhm.
nice service bay, really high door, basically suitable for any size of commercial truck to be able to pull into. So very versatile, decent amount of shop space. And basically, what we did was we renovated it. We had kind of like a reception area on the main level with a really nice reception desk built in. And then we finished the upper mezzanine level as a really nice kind of two office space. So, again, being uniquely positioned to complete those renovations probably at, maybe 50 to 60% of what it would cost, your average person that might not have those supplier and contractor connections. We did it up really nice. We found an insulation company to rent the bay out to. And yeah, it was very easy to manage. They're the type of tenants where they don't bug you a lot, right? Like as long as they have everything they need, they're not going to bother you. And if you're renting to a business that's established and is generating income, typically paying their rent isn't an issue. So
Yeah. That's interesting, James. So now that you're kind of in the regrouping and thinking about getting back into the market phase, I would recommend that maybe you focus on that area. And here's why. I've interviewed a number of guests recently that are kind of on the large side of that field where they don't buy like a single unit. They buy the whole kit and caboodle, right? So there's
totally.
10, 12, 15 bays in the unit and they kind of have the whole thing. But you can still do the same thing on a smaller scale with the individual units. And the nice thing is you can do what's called triple net with those kind of properties, which means that you don't just charge a regular rent. You charge rent, but your tenant also is responsible for all of the taxes and all of the utilities as well. So they're covering, and any repairs, any modifications, all those lovely renos that you did there. In most cases, like tenants can do that, will do that kind of stuff to get the property set up to snuff for them. Other cases, yeah, the landlord might do the renos initially, but it's like a longer term lease and all that kind of stuff to make it worth their while. That now that you've got the experience of having one of those kind of properties, so you're not starting from scratch there. Now that you've learned some lessons from, not crunching numbers properly in the first place with other properties. So if you start crunching the numbers on these kind of deals and you start learning a little bit about the whole triple net lease concept, I think that could be really, really good for you because what a lot of these guys are saying is there's just huge, huge demand for these kind of properties. I don't know about Edmonton, but I would suspect so. There's always contractors, there's always people that need these kind of properties typically. And like you said, they're a lot less of a pain in the butt because this is their livelihood. Like they're going to pay the bills on that because that's how they make a living. They can't, they're not going to fool around with that. So tends to be a lot more stable. Now, downside can be, it depends on the economy, but if things are slow, it might go vacant longer than a single family home would, for example. But might be something you might want to take a look at.
For sure, Dave. I really appreciate that tip, and it's kind of funny because it's always great to get outside objective perspective because when you're kind of in the middle of it all, it's hard to see everything around you. And kind of like working to develop a strategy as I re-enter the real estate market as an investor, with how COVID played out and everything, I was kind of like not really attracted to commercial. But now that you bring it up, like when a lot of people think commercial, I think they're thinking like office space and things like that.
No.
But if you're looking at renting out a condo, like a commercial bay,
Yeah, industrial
especially to
type
like
stuff.
to a home services company, like it doesn't matter what the economy does. It does, people still need their plumbing fixed. They still need their homes repaired and maintained. So
Yeah.
amazing tip. And I'll definitely, it was triple net you mentioned.
Triple net leases, yes.
Okay. Yeah. I'll have to do some research and educate
I
myself
think I
on
think
that
you
as
might
well.
like that a lot.
Yeah.
Awesome, James. Well, hey, you know what? Time flies. If people would like to connect with you and find out what you're up to, because I know you're active in the Edmonton market, you're part of, doing development deals and you're starting to get some experience around, CMHC, the MLI Select program. So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way? Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, definitely. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search James Matt, Matte. Always receptive to meeting and connecting with new people and happy to chat.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show, James.
You're welcome, Dave. Thanks for having me.
See you later, everybody. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewyou.com. Now at moneypartnerformula.com, we help real estate investors to create a process for predictably getting capital so they can do more deals without relying on hard money lenders or the banks. We do this by building them a private capital marketing system. Now, if you want help turning yourself into a big money capital attraction machine, then book a call with our team to see how we can help. Just visit moneypartnerformula.com to find out more. All right, take care, and we'll see you on the next interview.